What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. And today we're going to be discussing whether Trey Lance is winning the job or Jimmy Garoppolo is losing the job. Matt, it's been kind of an up and down preseason for both quarterbacks through 2 games. I think Jimmy comes out a little bit ahead, but I don't know. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I think in terms of overall play, Jimmy might be a little bit ahead with the cachet that he has with the team. He's a veteran guy. But, notice at the beginning of training camp when everybody said Jimmy's having the best training camp of his life, all that talk has gone away. And we've seen through the week with the Chargers in practice where he nearly had 3 red zone picks in practice, and you could visibly see the Chargers kind of clowning on him and laughing at him. To that sailed pass to Brandon Ayuk and just the skittish nature of Jimmy. There was another play where he dropped back. There was pressure. You see his happy foot dance. He double clutches the ball and then kind of like throws it at the back of the offensive line as the guy hits him. And it's just, you expect to see more. And so at this case, I think it's more Jimmy is losing this job than Trey is just out and out winning it, because Trey has his issues too. Low completion percentage. He's firing the ball with not enough touch, not the touch that he's showing in practice. He's taken far too many sacks. And granted, they're not designing the run plays that they had for him. And granted, he did have a nice scramble for a first down and a really nice scramble for the 2-point conversion that was unfortunately called back, where, again, Robbie Gold in midseason form boffs an extra point. Be that as it may, when you look at the overall stats, Jimmy's 6 of 9 for 41 yards and an interception in 2 preseason games. And that's nothing to write home about. That's what we expect out of Jimmy. Trey Lance is 13 of 28 for 230 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. And so when you just look at the box score, Trey Lance looks a lot better. I think the story goes more into that. Trey Lance has had a lot more playing time. He's playing against lesser competition. But there's going to come a point where this is going to bleed into the regular season. And let's say Jimmy starts against Detroit. And let's say Jimmy, in a close game, throws an interception or takes a sack or fumbles the ball or goes 3 and out. And you're sitting there and you're looking at the kid with so much upside, and you're looking at them at their worst. Is Trey going to be markedly worse than Jimmy Garoppolo? And in my opinion, no, because the sheer athleticism is just going to make up for that kind of stuff. And that's why you saw players who might not necessarily have been ready, a Lamar Jackson, a Josh Allen, where, passing the ball, they're not going to be the best. But running the ball allows them to extend plays, to kind of make some plays and get out there. And you can kind of cover up some of the mistakes that way, because one thing that Trey Lance has on his plate that Jimmy doesn't, besides the athleticism, is the big play ability. So when you factor in those things, Jimmy's going to have a real short leash, especially come the regular season. And I'm very interested to see how the playing time breaks out against the Raiders. I want to see if Trey Lance gets some more run with the ones in that game. Because if he does, and he plays again better than Jimmy Garoppolo in that preseason game, there's still an outside shot that they just give him the job right off the bat. They're invested in him. The capital that they put into him speaks volumes. And the fact that, you have somebody who you think is the future of your franchise versus somebody who isn't, because you drafted his replacement. How much leash and how much room do you give that guy who's being replaced before you put in the guy you're replacing him with?
Yeah, it's a very delicate situation, but I think what speaks the most volume is Trey is not playing with the same talent that Jimmy Garoppolo has had the benefit of, at least largely. Granted, Jimmy Garoppolo played one drive the first game and only one drive the second game. Granted, it was 16 plays, but still, we haven't seen Trey with Trent Williams, George Kittle, Raheem Mostert, all of the full starting offensive.
To be fair, I'm just going to push back because we haven't seen Jimmy with any of those guys either, because none of them have played in the preseason. Well,
not this year, but we have.
Not this year.
Previously.
Right.
So maybe not with that extra fire lit under him that should be there this year. But my initial point was that Trey still seems to be gaining ground, even though all of those factors that I just mentioned are there. He's playing with lesser talented players, with all due respect, second, third string guys. And he's been out of football for like a year. I mean, also you could make the same argument. He's going against lesser talent. So that's up for debate. However, the physical, X factor component that you constantly refer to, Matt, that I think is so important here when trying to evaluate who is where. Trey Lance just brings that, it's that Madden X factor that you press that A button or whatever it is exactly. I don't play Madden. Whatever it is that you just get that extra juice flowing. Jimmy doesn't have that. And from my opinion, Jimmy's never had that. Maybe he had a couple of great throws to, some clutch throws to win a game here or there, but you've never said, wow, Jimmy took over this game. Jimmy straight up won this game for the 49ers with his arm or with his leg. Possibly, I can think of two games, maybe the Saints game, maybe the second Rams game, maybe. But I think Trey Lance, with such little experience with the 49ers, 2 games, and he didn't play much in those 2 games, he's shown why Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and company, really, the whole 49ers fell in love with him. He's an extremely talented, physically gifted player. He's young, he's bright. He doesn't seem to make too many mistakes. And this is all without us really getting to see his mobility, his legs. So it's really tough. But I got to agree with you, Matt. I think Jimmy might be losing it because Trey, with all that said, hasn't done enough to completely jump out of off the paper. When we've seen Trey Lance, we haven't said, oh, yeah, 100% this guy deserves to start week 1. He's looked like a rookie. He's looked like a rookie that hadn't played last season, who's rusty, and it still seems like the gap is narrowing, right? Like I'm not seeing things here.
Yeah, and I think that it's telling because a lot of the fans are watching the Chargers game and they're like, well, Trey didn't play that much better than Jimmy. Jimmy did not play against the best of the Chargers defense, and he still looked erratic and roughshod. Really what Kyle said in regards to Trey, when they asked him why he gave him reps with the ones, he said he wanted to see them in there against Joey Bosa. He wanted to see them in there against Derwin James and get run against those guys. And he said in that way, these practices are actually, to me, more important than the game itself because these guys are in here. And what happened during those practices? Jimmy had a lot of poor throws and interceptions near the end zone. Again, we talked about the Chargers players kind of laughing and kind of making an easy time out of Jimmy. And then one of the highlights that we see from Trey, one of the first ones that we see with the ones, he runs a quarterback power and nearly runs by everybody. And you just hear everybody go, ooh and ah. And those things matter to the coaches. The coaches see it. The players see it. So there's so much upside on the table with Trey Lance that you're not getting from Jimmy Garoppolo. I think what Kyle is doing, because you said it earlier, it's a delicate process, and I absolutely agree. Kyle is waiting for Jimmy to lose the job. Plain and simple. Kyle wants Jimmy to make the decision for him. When Jimmy Garoppolo is going to cost his team some games or cost him some points, and the players are like, come on, Jimmy, we can't do this again. That's when Kyle can go, put Trey in there. Because at least Trey's going to be making mistakes. The justification is, well, he's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. And damn, look at that arm. Look at those deep throws. And boy, he can run.
Yeah, it's almost like Kyle's trying to take the decision out of his own hands. He's not going to be there and say, oh, I evaluated all the preseason training camp practices, joint practice film, and I'm deciding to go with Trey Lance. No, it's almost like, look, circumstance had it that Jimmy Garoppolo just wasn't cutting it. So now we have to go with Trey Lance.
And I think he's stuck in that situation too. I think they put themselves in a bind because Jimmy's so well liked as a leader in the locker room and all that stuff. And then you got this guy who you gave up so much draft capital for. You're in between a rock and a hard place. And I think that there is some genuine divide in the locker room where somebody like Deebo Samuel, who hasn't been utilized to his full capacity, but Jimmy Garoppolo looks at Trey Lance and is like, well, Trey can knock the top off of defense, and that's going to open things up for me, and I get to do my deep stuff. But then you have George Kittle, who is a leader on the team and is one of Jimmy Garoppolo's best friends, pounding the table for Jimmy. And so you run the risk if you make the switch too early, or you do it in a way that seems disrespectful to one or the other, you risk alienating players on your team. And that's absolutely not something you want to do, especially when you have so much talent on this roster that even with Trey Lance, this team is going to push for playoffs. Even with Trey Lance as raw and as rusty as he is, there's enough talent surrounding him. And that's why he is in such a good situation. That's why when the 49ers drafted him, even prior to the draft, every media person, every person who was in the know, every scout was like, whoever goes to the 49ers is probably going to work out because they have so much talent. They have good coaching. They have so much talent around him. It's probably going to work. So Kyle kind of painted himself in this corner, and he's just hoping that Jimmy just throws a big bucket of paint on the wall so that he can kind of get out of it,
Yeah, and if history is anything to go off of, he will. It's just a matter of time. Maybe it's different, that he has some legitimate competition behind him. We'll have to wait and see.
And we can't even discount a Jimmy injury.
That's true. Yeah, that's fair. He hasn't finished the season yet.
He's played 16 once. Yeah, that was the Super Bowl year. And so other than that, he hasn't finished the season. He's gotten injured every single one. So when you're looking at law of averages, it would seem like that it's either going to be poor play or an injury. And once he gets injured, Trey Lance is not going to look back. He's not getting that job back. He will get Alex Smith in a hurry.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to end it with. Once you make this move, there's no going back. So you need to be 100% sure right now is the right time, because if not, it's going to get ugly for a little bit and then it'll get better. But you got to endure that ugliness as a team. So it's going to be interesting, man. It's only a matter of time, like we both said. We'll be here when it happens to break it all down. As for now, that's going to conclude this episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Do you think Trey Lance is winning the starting quarterback job, or would you say Jimmy Garoppolo is losing it?
Go ahead and click the bell for notifications. Like us and follow us on all our social media accounts. We love having you here. Thank you for joining us as always. And until next time, go Niners.